this works. Actually, it's my first time speaking at a conference, so please bear with me. I hope you learned something new, and yeah, my topic is that you decide whether people are able to use the web, and actually I will focus on the web, but it's true for every platform, so for every device and for everyone. And we as developers and designers have just a huge responsibility, and sometimes I have the feeling that we forget this while we're building products, because we are privileged, and not everybody is. Not everybody is able to see and yeah, see that great and hear that great, and it's not that clear for everybody how to use something. And yeah, when I look around, I see some MacBooks and new smartphones and with great internet connection and everything. But that's not normal, and we see that as normal, but we have to think about this. And when I look at my grandma and grandpa, they are about 85 years old, and they want to use the web, but it's actually pretty difficult for them to use it, because they want to zoom a website, but it's not possible because sites are disable zooming, or what's going on, and that's not great. And yeah, we have to keep this in mind, that we are not like everybody, and we are just privileged. And yeah, this is probably you while using the web. And these are many other people that are kind of frustrated with it. And yeah, not everybody has a great device or something like that. And we all have this friend who, when we use they have some technical question, and we go there and with the old netbook, and we look at this and like, hey, I could check my website and IA8, whatever, and there's what's this dark blue? I think it was a light blue, but the screen has not that great contrast, and we have to think about these devices and these people. And I often have the feeling that today it's all about aesthetics, and we do not think about, many people do not think about how we implement the features and what impact it has, and we only implement it. And actually it's about respect. Respect is key and most important, and it should always be on your mind when you implement and design new features. So actually we have to go to a kind of responsible web design where accessibility is a feature and matters as much as the look and feel of your website, and is a key point and not something extra that could be on your list. It should and must be on your list. And this could be you when you're building the new hot thing. And actually, it's building beautiful things is, of course, fun, but building beautiful, fun things that are usable for everyone is incredible hard. And it's this kind of work that some people or everybody sees, or some people see, but everybody notices. So it's visible, but you can't see it directly. And it's important because the internet is important, and this sounds a little bit crazy because probably we all know that the internet is important, but for example, for me, without the internet, I would not know how to program, I wouldn't know many great people, I wouldn't be here at the conference meeting great people. And the internet is the main place for education and communication. And so we have some kind of responsibility to make it possible for everyone to use. And I sometimes have the feeling that we just forget about it. So let's see some code examples. You have this sign-up form. It's pretty simple. You have 2 headings, navigation, and 2 inputs with a label for each one. So pretty simple. But of course, there are different ways how to implement this feature. And I built a good example and a bad example, and they both looked exactly the same. But you could do it with div content editable, which is horrible. Or you could use a native input field and provide extra features that the browser can read. Get into this later. But both versions would work, and it would be OK for the user. Same goes for here. I see that pretty often that people do not use a native label, but they use a span element, whatever. And it's not that great, because if you look at the browser, what the browser will read for you, in the upper example, it only says added text, and the user, which text? There are many texts, and there's no information about it. And if you just use the correct HTML elements, the browser can collect so much information for you. For example, okay, this input field is for Twitter because it has this information from the label element, and it has invalid data in it because of the area invalid. And of course, you can edit this text. And this may sound stupid while I'm explaining it, because you might say it's obvious that you just use an input for input, but it's not. Let's give me an example. A designer came in lately, and says, hey, we want an input field with a border bottom that grows as you type. And there also should be a placeholder text. And it pretty much looked like it. You can see it. And it's working. Yeah. So you type, and the border bottom grows, and not very fancy stuff, but not possible with an input field. So I implemented it like he wanted it, and said, OK, here you can have it, but it's not great. And if you look at the code, this is code you don't want to use. You could do it, but it doesn't make, it's not really great. And you might wonder that a span element doesn't have a placeholder attribute by default, but we get in this later. We have the CSS for that, and then we have some fancy shit going on. I don't recommend using it. When there is content editable true in it, and it's empty, then we are using a pseudo element and using the content of the placeholder attribute. This works, as you saw earlier, but it ends up in code like this. It's very easy to break, and you just have to increase the text, and it would break, and you have to adjust the width. And no, that's not great code. And I wasn't really satisfied with it. So I went to the designer and said, hey, we can do this, but it's not good. And let's find a solution. Is the border bottom that important that the code is not accessible, and it's pretty bad code? And the designer said, nope, leave it out. And I was just like, okay, if I knew this earlier, I could have spent my time a little better. So talk to each other. I often have the feeling that designers and developers do not communicate directly to each other, and the designer says, here's a design, and the developer says, okay, cool, I will code it and it works. But probably if the designer would have known that it wasn't a great solution before, he wouldn't say that I should implement it. So yeah, discuss problems together and just find a solution, talk to each other, and then it's possible to find a solution and think about problems. So you might say, so what should I do now? And it's first of all, the main part of it is just be aware of what responsibility you have as a designer and as a developer, because we often forget this. And then use appropriate HTML elements. I think it sounds a little bit stupid, but if you Google list of HTML elements, you find a huge list with HTML elements for every single purpose. And there are a lot, and if you use them correctly, they are doing pretty great things. And if you're using HTML elements correctly, you did a kind of good job to improve accessibility without doing many things, because the browser handles a lot for you, and of course there are things that browsers are not handling well, and you have to improve them. But the defaults are pretty great, and the screen reader does a pretty good job. You can try it out if you just set your iPhone or Android phone or whatever to that the device reads everything on the screen, and it's amazing how what the device all handles and what screen readers can tell the user. By using appropriate HTML elements, you are also improving the user experience. So I could use a span content editable solution, but if the user clicks in the called input field, he could type something, but the cursor doesn't blink and ding, ding. And the user expects that to happen and may ask, I clicked it, but nothing is happening. So use it because people expect certain behavior. Or also, to name another example, a select element, especially on mobile devices or browsers handle that pretty good. So you could build a custom solution for a select thing, but that's not great. And especially on mobile, it's pretty hard to zoom and then type it, and use appropriate elements, and you will improve, for example, user experience. You will also, of course, improve accessibility, and accessibility is so important for not just the users, but for all the community. It also have to do something like with diversity. It's important for that too. So think about the way how you implement features and what you're doing as a developer, because you are responsible for the people, whether they can educate themselves or can communicate with people or getting to know other people, and think about it. So yeah, basically that's it. Thank you very much for listening. And yeah, if you have any questions or whatever, send me an email, hit me up on Twitter, or talk to me in person. That would be great. Yeah, thank you very much for your time.